Hello YouTube, StuckInAPool here with some more Fire Emblem Heroes stuff for you. In today's video, we're going to be doing some more quick builds for the new arena bonus units. So if you didn't see the last video, in this series I'm going to look at the newest set of bonus units for the arena and basically just make some quick builds for them. However, I won't be talking about the newest released heroes because A, some people can't summon on the newest banner or they just don't get lucky enough to get any of the new heroes. And B, there are already tons of new hero reviews and builds that are released immediately as they come out. Those resources are pretty easy to find, so I know you can always just go look for those. So for each unit, I'll do a budget build and a more expensive build, but for both, I'm going to try and consider the unit's base kits and base weapons as much as possible because the whole purpose of this video is to help you build up a hero fairly quickly in case you don't have a bonus unit that's arena ready yet. So the arena bonus units for this season are Fallen Robin or Grima, Fallen Harden, Fallen Celica, Fallen Takumi, Michalis, Sheena, Nowi, Lukas, and Sheena. Like I said, I won't be talking about the new summonable heroes, and I won't be talking about the Asker trio, because by this point you probably either have them fully built up, or you haven't really used them at all. I will also briefly discuss Fallen Takumi, even though he's so new. I really don't have much in-depth to offer on him since he is so new and he's kind of gimmicky. I really haven't had the chance to build him up and play with him yet, so I'll talk about him briefly, just some ideas I had, but nothing major. Before I get into the builds, I should add that these are just my suggestions based on my experience. There are plenty of other good options worth considering out there. And also for the sake of consistency, I'm going to be using maxed out skills for all the builds, but in most instances a level 2 skill can easily replace a level 3 skill without much consequence, such as, with quick riposte. Just know that it may hurt your arena score a little bit. So the first unit of our 6 that we're going to talk about today is Sheena. So Sheena is good if you need a counter to lances and axes, but she's also great at handling blue and green mages and colorless, especially if she has distant counter. If you need a solid, sturdy wall with good mixed defenses, especially if you give her Wary Fighter, or if you just need a green armor that can round out your armor emblem team. So the first build we're going to talk about here, we give her Keep Her Slaying Axe, refine it for either defense or resistance depending on her IVs and what you want her to do. Give her Pivot, because this is just always a good idea for armors. Give her Bonfire Iceberg, again, depending on her stats. We can keep Fallen Shield. It's more useful than a lot of other anti-effective weapon skills, just because in Arena you tend to see more anti-armor weapons, so that works out pretty well. Our B slot, we're going to give her Renewal. This could be a lot of things. This is pretty flexible. Either way, this will help her tank and survive a little longer, but like I said before, Wary Fighter is also a good option. The C slot, I love Threat and Attack here. It just helps her tank even better. She'll take less damage. They won't be hitting her as hard. The S slot is where we're going to put Quick Riposte. It's a great option. It could also go in the B slot over Renewal if you are using Quick Riposte seal elsewhere, and you could just put something else here. Overall that part of the build is pretty flexible. The more expensive build we're going to look at here, still going to go with the Slaying Axe depending on what you need for the refinement. Keeping Pivot. Here we're going to go with Aether. It will charge more quickly thanks to her axe, and we're going to give her Vengeful Fighter in the B slot, so overall this works really well together. The A slot, we're going to give her Distant Counter. This is perfect since she has good mixed defenses, so she can handle mages as well as archers, ninjas, just about everyone. The C slot, we're going to give her we're going to keep Threat and Attack if she's a defensive type unit, or we're going to give her Attack Ploy if she's a res based more so. If her resistance is pretty high, she can get off a ploy pretty easily. If not, then getting off the threaten will still help her quite a bit since she kind of wants to be in the fray anyway. Either way, she's going to take less damage. And for the seal, I like giving her distant defense, especially if she has distant counter. If not, it could be something else. Our second unit that we're going to talk about is Nowi. So Nowi's good if you need a counter to swords, lances, bows, and daggers. She can even stand up against axes, especially the ones that have lower resistance. She's good if you need a strong dragon that can actually still stand up to falchions pretty well. And overall, she's good if you need a defensive tank, especially if you need a Brave Lyn or Brave Bow counter. So looking at our first cheaper build here, we'll keep her Lightning Breath. It's probably the best option on dragons right now. We'll give her Reposition. This is flexible. You could go with a dual rally here if you want, but obviously Reposition's more flexible. You could even go swap if you wanted to. We'll give her Bonfire, just makes sense since she's a defense tank. We'll keep her native defense +3. It's pretty cheap, and it helps her tank better, and, it helps her do her job better. Nothing wrong with that. You could go with Triangle Adept here. It'll help her survive falchions a little better, but I feel like, especially with Alm being a bonus unit, you're going to see some cancel affinity falchions coming in eventually, specifically to counter Nowi, but that's kind of yet to be seen. For B, we're going to give her Sword Breaker so those falchions don't double her. That'll help her survivability a lot. For C, we're going to go ahead and keep her Threat and Riz as well. That'll just help her hit even harder. For her S slot here, this is pretty flexible. I went with Deflect Missile on this build just because it's good for countering Brave Bows. If not, my personal choice on now is always going to be Close Defense. It'll help with the swords and the lances and axes and whatnot. But failing that, you could always just put Defense +3 here. Looking at our more expensive build, we'll keep the Lightning Breath and refine it for defense, just like before. We'll give her Reposition, again, that's flexible. This time we're going to give her Aether, and that would be because her A slot, we're going to go ahead and give her Steady Breath. This way, Aether will charge easily because she'll often get doubled. With that and Quick Riposte, her B slot skill, she'll always attack back twice, so she'll get an Aether off every time as long as she gets doubled. The C slot is pretty flexible. This could be a lot of things depending on what your team needs. Panic Ploy is a pretty good option because her HP is pretty high. If not, you could keep Threat and Resistance. You could go with a team buff. My Nowi is built up. She has Attack Tactic right now. I think that's a pretty good option. And then her S slot, again, this is flexible, but I personally just really like Close Defense. Looking at our next unit, we're going to talk a little about Alm. So Alm is good if you need a well-rounded counter to axes and dragons. If you need a strong source of player phase damage, his effective 16 might brave weapon can tear down just about any unit with lower defense. He's also good if you need one of those pseudo healers with Falchion. He can kind of help people stay topped off if you're running allies that need full health for their skills. So looking at our cheaper build, we'll go with Falchion and his Double Lion special effect. We're going to run with Reciprocal Aid because it can help him stay topped off, as well as helping his allies heal a little bit if necessary. We'll keep his Draconic Aura. It's pretty cheap. This is a pretty flexible option though. It may not help him on that first fight, but it'll help him in the second if he needs it. We'll keep his Attack +3. It's pretty cheap. It'll help him on both phases. Definitely more so it'll help out his player phase since he has that Brave effect. If you can't afford it, Death Blow is definitely better here. We'll keep his Wind Sweep as well. If built right, he can utilize it and it can help him get off the damage without retaliation. So that'll help him stay at 100%. So he's at that threshold to use, that double line effect all the time. That ties into his C skill, which we're going to give him Threat and Speed. If he can get it off, this will help us wind sweep a lot. And then in the enemy phase, it'll help him to not get doubled and survive a little better if he has to take a hit afterwards. And then the S slot, naturally, Phantom Speed's main use is to help wind sweep, really. It can, it's also for Flashing Blade, but this is probably one of the better uses for it right now. And his more expensive build, again, we'll keep his Weapon Refinement, we'll keep Reciprocal Aid. And his special slot, we're going to go with Glimmer. It just synergizes really well since he has high player phase attack. And then the A slot, like I said before, Death Blow is perfect for this type of build. And the B slot, I mentioned it before, Alm with Cancel Affinity can shut down Nowi. It's mostly for any blue unit that's running Triangle Adept, but Nowi's kind of the typical culprit and the one he's going to have trouble with. So this will help him shut her down. And the C slot, we're going to keep Threat and Speed here. It's a little more flexible here because he's not using Wind Sweep, but it will help him quad the slower tanky units such as Nowi if he's able to get it off before combat. And then what kind of ties this build together is the Heavy Blade Seal. Using this, often he'll be able to activate Glimmer on his second hit, since his attack is pretty good, especially with Death Blow. So moving on to our next unit, we're going to talk about Good Boy Lukas. Lukas is good if you need a good counter to physical units of all colors. Obviously, mostly he wants to be fighting swords and lances, but he can shrug off almost any physical damage. He's good if you basically need a physical wall, but you already have some good magic tanks. Lukas wants to stay away from all magic damage. He's also good if you need a special bot that can dish out a lot of that unmitigated bonus damage, although honestly his attack is nothing to sneeze at. So our cheaper build, we're going to keep his Slang Lance. We'll give him Reposition. This is also kind of flexible. Kind of depends on what you need. We're going to give him Ignis. He's slow enough that he'll almost always get doubled, so with Quick Riposte this will charge automatically. We'll keep his Fortress Defense. This specializes him even further, and honestly his attack is pretty good, so it doesn't really mind taking a hit. And the skill, made for units like this, Quick Riposte, just makes sense. Threat and Attack, it'll help him tank a little better, help him stay alive, and use Quick Riposte more. And then his S slot is kind of flexible. I like giving him Close Defense. If not, you could always just go with Defense +3. He is more of an enemy phase unit. this will give him 6 more defense on the enemy phase. The resistance isn't going to help him really. I'd still avoid dragons, especially since the red dragons are naturally defensively tanky. You won't do much to them anyway. So looking at his more expensive build, we'll keep his Slaying Lance and refine it for defense. Makes sense. We'll give him a dual rally here. It's good for the score. You know, obviously he doesn't need speed or resistance. He can just give it to someone else. But I would just keep reposition if it helps you more to get your allies around. We're going to give him Bonfire here, and we switched down from Ignis because we're also going to give him Steady Breath. So that way, this will make Bonfire activate immediately whenever Lukas is attacked, thanks to his Slaying Lance. So using this method, Lukas will get 2 Bonfire procs in one fight, which is crazy. The B slot, we're going to go with Renewal. You could keep Quicker Post here, but I moved Quicker Post to the S slot. So Renewal and Quicker Post honestly just synergize very well together. It'll help him stay topped off so we can use Quicker Post more. So overall, that's a good option. And we'll keep Threat and Attack. This is also flexible, but honestly, it's cheap, it's effective. Since he's enemy phase, it just works really well. So moving on to the first of our Grand Hero units, we're going to talk about Michalis. So Michalis is good if you need a counter to axes and lances. Michalis is basically a flying green Lukas. He's also good if you need a flyer on your team to help move your units around, especially if you're carrying a lot of armors around. And like Lukas, he's good if you need a special bot for that unmitigated bonus damage. And then he does even better with this thanks to Hauteclaire's special effect. So looking at his first build, of course, we're going to keep Hauteclaire. We're going to give him Reposition, just because it's always good on flyers. His special, we're going to go with Ignis. He'll, like Lukas, he'll often get doubled, so this will charge quickly. His A slot, I'm going to go with Defense plus 3 for the cheaper option. Either way, I'm not a big fan of Io's shield here, because if I want him to be taking hits from archers, I'm going to want him to have distant counter. So if I do that, I'm going to put Io's shield in the S slot. So either way, I don't really like it in the A slot. His B slot, we're going to give him Vantage. It's honestly just a good option. That plus Ignis plus his weapon plus threat and defense, it'll often be enough to eliminate whatever's attacking him before it has a chance to do anything, so long as Ignis is charged. And his C slot, we'll keep threat and defense. It's cheap, it's effective. You know, threatens are typically kind of looked down on, but for enemy phase units are awesome options in my opinion. So his more expensive build, again, we'll keep his weapon, keep reposition, keep Ignis. And basically we're just going to upgrade Defense plus 3 to Steady Stance, since basically Michalis is mostly an enemy phase unit anyway, thanks to Quicker Post. For his B slot, we're going to go with Renewal, like I mentioned with Lukas. It works well here and with Quicker Post in the S slot. Especially for Michalis, since he can kind of fly away and stall for those Renewal procs if he needs to. And for his C slot, we're going to give him Guidance. You could keep Threat and Defense, but again, if you're running armors and you need all the help with mobility, Guidance is perfect here. I'm going to do one more quick build here just for him. I just want to throw this in because it was a super neat idea I saw. Omni8 featured it in a video. It was like a Bruiser Michalis kind of build. I normally would only think of Deflect Melee as an answer to Brave Weapons, but this was another really cool way to use it. So basically, the idea is running his special weapon with Vantage and Ignis and Deflect Melee, along with Threat and Defense. So that way, whenever he engages on player phase, he'll attack once, and then he'll get doubled in retaliation. But Deflect Melee will cut down on the damage he receives, so that way he won't die. And it would also put him in Vantage range, as well as Brazen range. Now, at the time he made this video, Brazen Attack and Defense wasn't a skill yet, so I would imagine this is like the premium skill to put on this build. After combat, his Ignis will also be charged. He'll be hit just enough times for that. So then as enemy phase starts, the enemy gets hit by his threat and defense, and then when they engage on him, they'll be hit by his crazy special weapon charged, brazen boosted Ignis, and basically get deleted. The issue is, after he does this, he's kind of done, unless he can get healed up. But this is a super effective build, especially if you're targeting a really tanky enemy. So our second Grand Hero unit you can pick from, we have Fallen Takumi. He's good if you need an effective enemy phase bait for daggers, archers, and even slower mages. He doesn't mind taking hits from him. He's good if you need a strong source of range damage, especially as an answer to flyers. He's also pretty good if you need a source of fairly easy panic against Emblem teams, as well as some chip damage, thanks to his special weapon. So our cheaper build here, we'll keep Scotty. We're going to give him Reciprocal Aid. This is kind of flexible, but it will help him to hit harder with the Vantage and Vengeance combo, or if he needs to, it'll help him heal up to full health. We're going to keep Vengeance. It's flexible, it's cheap, but I won't lie, it's not going to do tons of damage thanks to his low health, so if you can replace this, it's not a bad idea. We'll keep Fury. He has this, you know, Fury's never really a bad option unless it just doesn't synergize well with other skills. But we're going to go with Vantage for his B slot. It synergizes well with Fury. For his C slot, we're going to keep Speed Smoke. It's cheap, it's effective. Basically, it helps him to never get doubled on enemy phase. He still may die though because he isn't too tanky, but he won't really get doubled. So as long as he's not killed in one hit, this should help him a lot. His S slot, we're going to go with Poison Strike here. It's a bit of an odd choice, but with Vantage, it can help him to get some KOs off before he's touched if he's not able to eliminate the enemy on player phase. This is definitely a flexible choice, and if you're looking for something more reliable, then plus speed's honestly a really good option. And his second build, our more expensive one. Again, we'll keep Scotty, we'll keep Reciprocal Aid. On this build, you might go with Reposition instead. This is pretty flexible still. His special, we'll go with Moonbow. This is also pretty flexible, but generally it's a better option than Vengeance or Reprisal, especially since his health is pretty low. His A slot, we're going to go with Swift Sparrow. You could keep Fury, but this makes him honestly really scary on player phase. So we're going to go with Wings of Mercy here for two reasons. One, it does help him to aid his teammates, you know, he can fly around and help someone out. But also, it'll help him reposition a little easier for that third turn AoE effect when it comes up. The C slot, we're going to go with Speed Smoke again. It's a little more flexible here. You could always go with a team buff or something if you'd rather. And the S slot here, we're definitely going to go with Speed plus 3. Overall, it'll help him double more. But again, if you need to change it up, you can change it up. So that's all the units I'll be discussing today. If you're still trying to get a unit built up for this arena season, I hope this gave you some ideas. Tomorrow I'll have another Underrated Heroes video up, so that's something to look forward to if you're a fan of those. But anyway, as always, I hope you all enjoyed. I hope maybe you learned something, but most importantly, I hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.